All right. It's September 19th, 2019. It's Thursday. We got the Getaway Cafe coming up, which I'm going to go to. I've been focusing on less on the writing and more on my voice. I feel like I've been hyper focused on writing. Like if you listen to Jerry Seinfeld talk about the way he writes jokes, he is a fucking I don't like. Okay, a little bit about me. I don't think I like Jerry Seinfeld as a person, like as a human being. I've never watched his sitcom. I've only seen the first episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't even think he's in that. I think that's just Larry David. But I watch him in comedians in cars getting coffee, and I've watched him in other interviews, and I just don't like him. I don't get a good vibe from him, but he's Jerry Seinfeld, so he deserves comedic respect. And yeah, he is a fucking wordsmith. He sits down and he meticulously fixes and organizes his jokes so that they are perfect. And if you listen to interviews with him talking about hecklers, his whole strategy is stick with the material. Stick with the material until eventually you come out on top. And that's not who I am naturally. So I feel like I've been taking that very meticulous approach to writing, and I want to change that. It really seems like I work better with a looser feel. Every time I perform and someone gives me a compliment, it's usually on the stuff that I ad-libbed or said around the jokes. And so I'm just kind of working with that some more. And this is a lesson that I have to keep fucking relearning, but I think I'm getting better at relearning it, and that is don't perform. Do not fucking perform. Don't try to perform. You should just be yourself. Just be yourself, your most confident self. And I'm sure I said this already as well, but I've just kind of jumped back to the idea of it as of recent, and I think it's clicking more. Like, I'm sure there was a point when I first started talking to KJ where some stuff clicked, and then it clicked off immediately. And then as time has gone by, as I keep practicing and thinking about it and figuring out what angles I personally want to take with it, it clicks for longer periods of time, and then it clicks off again. As of recent, though, it's been clicking again. And I'm sure I've said this before, but I'll repeat myself. And that is that I've always felt more comfortable speaking to women. Like I don't know, that's just how I work for whatever reason. And so I just try to, like when I get on stage, all I've been doing is say to myself, like, okay, it's just like you're talking to a girl. Like you're talking to a girl on a date, you'll be good. And so far, it's been working. Generally speaking, I go in and I'm much calmer. I try to kind of click into it all day. I've William Henderson has basically called me the night guy. Like that's his nickname for me. So I'm just gonna embrace it. I'm trying to make it's so frustrating. Like he calls me night guy as if it's my alter ego, when in reality it really is me. Like the most pure, honest self. The most authentic me is the one that's around women. Like that's just what it is. And so I'm trying to be the night guy just all day. I'm just trying to be who the fuck I am naturally all day. And it's weird. It's a weird feeling because it can definitely come off flirtatious when it's not meant to be. But I'm still working on it. I actually had a show at Back to the Grind. Was that last week? And it was crazy. Like, so I was in that night guy mode, and first set went great. Ad-libbed, had fun, used what I got from KJ, thought about things from my perspective. I was talking to a woman. It was fucking fantastic. And then we had two shows, double feature, and George was putting me on both because it's the buddy system, and fuck it, I might as well utilize this thing that we've made. And so I was on both shows. First show, fantastic, a lot of fun. Second show, right before the show started, this guy came up to me, not a homeless guy for once. There's a guy came up to me and was like, "Hey man, Aaron, you're the guy, man. You're so funny, man. We've seen you like a bunch of shows." And that threw me the fuck off. Like, way off. Where I was it was frustrating. It was funny because had he not said that, I probably would have been able to ride the consistent night guy wave. As soon as he said that, I was immediately in my head and I was like, fuck, I want to impress this guy. I need to make sure he thinks I'm funny. He saw me before. I need to make sure he thinks I'm funny. And I immediately lost it. And what I came to realize is that there is a not give a fuck attitude that's kind of important. The problem is that not give a fuck attitude has to be balanced. Like I've seen comics who burn out and genuinely don't give a fuck. Like don't give a fuck about their career, don't give a fuck about entertaining the audience, don't give a fuck about getting laughs. They just get up there and don't give a fuck. And it's terrible to watch and it's incredibly uncomfortable. But there's something to be said about doing it for you. It's an oxymoron because you are performing for people, but the best performance you're going to give is kind of the most authentic version of you who doesn't care about what they think, but you inherently have to care about what they think. It's a whole thing. Either way, yeah. He said that to me and it fucking threw me off, and I immediately went back into performing mode. But luckily last night I was in night guy mode and it really worked out for me. Dealt with hecklers, like aggressive East Coast style hecklers. People that were actively yelling out at you, trying to make sure that you bomb. And that went really well, and I could feel calmer and more confident. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm just trying to stay in night guy mode, which is all day until the evening, and do that as well. And so far it seems to be working. So I guess if I were to give advice to a newer comic, or a comic that is newer than me, listening, it would be think about the time you are most confident. When do you feel most comfortable? When are you in your most, when in the environment do you feel like you have the most power? And then apply that to yourself on stage. And I think that'll help. And I've also been, getting into this night guy thing. I think I said this already, that I've got what I need to get from Joe Rogan and David Goggins at this point. If I need to go back to them, I will. But as of right now, I can self-motivate in a way that I never could before. So I internalized all that stuff that I learned, and now I'm moving forward. And so now I've been listening to Opie and Anthony. I don't know how this happened, but I went down this Patrice O'Neal relationship advice rabbit hole. If you're offended easily, don't trust me. Don't listen to this. But every day now I've just been listening to Patrice O'Neal talk about relationships. In many, many, many ways I disagree, and in many, many ways I agree. I think I might even take some of those clips and then argue with him. I know he's dead, but argue with him in my own podcast. But that's also helped. Like listening to Opie and Anthony. Same with Jerry Seinfeld. It's hard to listen to Opie and Anthony, mostly because of Anthony. Well, let me figure out his last name. Okay, I think his name is Anthony Cumia. Yeah, that guy gets on my fucking nerves. He doesn't seem like a very smart person. And I don't like listening to smart people I don't like listening to people that aren't very smart, that are cocky. And he is incredibly cocky. Outside of that criticism, it has been a lot of fun listening to, including him. He's a very funny guy, but it has been a lot of fun listening to them just shoot the shit and talk and just be dudes. It's helped me a lot with clicking into that cadence, because there is a specific shit talk cadence that is consistent amongst at least what I've been listening to. Like when I listen to comedians just talk versus get into shit talk mode, there's just a different vibe about it. And so I've been picking up on those cadences and using them when needed. But I'll probably talk more about Opie and Anthony and Patrice O'Neill at a later date. Ran the light a little bit. It's all good.